Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Before I get started with today's message from my spirit guides from this morning's meditation, I would like to say thank you. Many of you have been leaving comments, clicking like and subscribe on these videos, and even some of you going to my Patreon page and maybe joining even as a free member. I just want to say thank you for that. As you know, if you've been watching these, I was urged so strongly by my spirit guides to start becoming very much more publicly visible and active and record YouTubes and do the weekly spirit talks. And it just is so nice to get that kind of support and feedback from you all. And gosh, I hope it means that you're getting something useful and beneficial out of what I'm doing. So thank you. Today's message is sort of twofold. I originally thought it might even need to be two videos, but no, the two parts of this are so interconnected that this is going to be one video. I don't know if it'll be a little longer, it may. So here's what the spirit guides wanted me to talk with you about this morning. I'll start with change, the word change, the energy of change, and change as a constant. I think it was the Arcturians who channeled through Daniel Scranton a message about change being a constant. And I listened to the message, I read it, I understood it, but it didn't come clear to me until this morning in morning's meditation, where I can clearly see what they're getting at. They helped me clearly see what they're getting at. As we raise our vibration, as we lift and expand our consciousness, we actually become a different version of ourselves. And because we are coming and perceiving and observing from a different, higher place within our consciousness, we are creating the world around us differently. And we immediately, of course, start noticing differences, changes in how our friends and neighbors act, what kinds of things we see going on. It's all part of the same thing. We're creating a new world because we're creating it from a new, higher place. We're seeing things differently. We're perceiving differently and able to see new things that we actually could not even, we weren't in a place to be able to see and accept previously. So as we change, as we lift and expand our consciousness, we change our understanding of who and what we are. We become clearer and clearer about what our true identity is. And as that, again, lifts and raises in vibration, our understanding of ourselves lifts and changes also. And we start understanding our relationship to the world we see around us differently. We start seeing ourselves differently, and we start seeing our role that we play in the world around us differently. So in a very literal sense, when you are ascending and expanding and uplifting your consciousness, the only constant is change, because you are changing and you understand yourself in a new, higher, different, better way every minute of every day. The world you're inhabiting is shifting as well, because you are shifting how you're looking at it, and because you are understanding your identity differently, and understanding your identity differently, coming clearer and clearer to who and what you really are. You shift your understanding of what the role you play is. So constantly we are in change. And so as someone who is ascending, and if you're watching this, who's very consciously willing, ready, and able, and came here to ascend and actually experience this, we can have, parts of that can be just peaceful, wonderful, insightful days where just of incredible peace and well-being, and we just understand ourselves and our universe, and we're just fine. There are other days where, and they don't have to be separate, but there can be days of great inspiration and motivation and active, exuberant joy. There can also be times of odd, sort of dead feeling, unmotivated, weird, out of sync times. Sometimes, as I said in a video I did a few days ago about recalibration, sometimes it's it's downtime where the left brain kind of goes away because it's having trouble keeping up. And we're just recalibrating all the energies that we're transmuting, taking in, putting out, energies we're taking in, shifting, creating new versions of ourselves in the world with. Um, we're recalibrating that. And so as far as at the real conscious left brain ego level, we kind of go away and we're just quiet and we don't want to do anything. There's nothing wrong. We're not feeling negative or discouraged or down or confused. We're not feeling much of anything. We're just sort of sitting there. And I talked about that in that recalibration video a few days ago. But there's another sort of version of this where you might be feeling kind of confused, a little discouraged, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing here? The old story doesn't fit anymore, but you don't know what the story really is. And it can be just a weird limbo in between time that doesn't feel very good. It can feel just confused and certainly unmotivated. That, at least from my perspective, and I've seen other videos, a couple posted on YouTube where someone says, oh, I'm awakened, and gosh, now I don't feel like doing anything. I'm completely unmotivated. Right, because what can happen is, and it's not a bad thing, it's just part of it, that you've realized that the paradigm and the structure, as you've understood it, is essentially a hallucination, that it's not what you thought it was. You're not what you thought you were. You're not sure yet what it is and what you are, and you're kind of in a limbo state. There are no lines. There are no like black and white levels or lines, but you're kind of in a limbo state in between states of update. And so all we can do in those times is know that that is part of it, that as we are shifting and ascending, that there's going to be some times of kind of like being a little bit, things are a little bit out of sync, and the old structure isn't in place for us anymore, but the new structure hasn't made itself clear to us yet either. That new way of seeing things, the new role, so to speak. So when that happens, don't beat on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. There's nothing wrong. It's part of it. It's part of that understanding that if you are giving yourself to uplift, ascension, raising your vibration, expanding your consciousness and your awareness, that by definition involves constant change. So there you go. I feel you guys changing as you're watching this. You go, oh, okay. Oh, this is part of the process. So it's okay that right now I don't know sort of who the heck I am or what I'm doing or what's going on. It's really okay. The second half of this message that the spirit guides wanted me to share today has to do with something I said earlier in this video about us being ground crew, the transformation team. We all came here by choice to be fully educated and to be fully prepared so that we could be the actual transition energy, the transition space, the expression of the transition from the old paradigm of human consciousness and reality and the new paradigm that we're going to. Now, in larger terms, both always exist, have always existed. There is no such thing as time. However, human consciousness has been vibrating in and perceiving and experiencing the old paradigm, which was fear and lack based, conflict based, separation, of course, by definition. The new paradigm being love, abundance, creative expansion, creative empowerment, collaboration. Very, very different. And it's not only a very real and valid version of the human consciousness, it's what we're built to be able to be. It's what we're built to evolve into. And you and I and many others are the actual transition team, the ground crew, to be the space, to hold the space, to be the space of that actual transition from human holding old paradigm, vibrating an old paradigm, to human holding and vibrating in new paradigm. That is no easy task. To have literally experienced, gone through, fully understand the human old paradigm, worldview, and emotions, and shift into and hold and be in the new paradigm of that love, abundance, creative empowerment, collaboration, cooperation. We are here to usher in the new paradigm. That's a pretty important job to hold, and it's probably the hardest because we are literally the energetic and consciousness space, aware, living through it, of holding where we have been as human consciousness and simultaneously where we are going as human consciousness. We are it. We are the transfer chamber, if you will. The self-aware, experiencing it real time transfer chamber. One analogy would be, when you're watching videos like this one, where there are edits and they put a blur to kind of help one cut blend and melt into the next cut a little more seamlessly. We are energetically the blur edit that pieces two things that are different together so that they blend in and easily transfer where we were to where we're going, the previous state to the new state. Another analogy that I've always sort of thought of would be on a submarine or on a space station. On the space station, of course, there's pressurized air inside the space station, and there's no atmosphere outside, no pressure. And so when the astronauts have to travel from inside the pressurized atmosphere to the outside of the space station, they need a safe place to make the transition. And that place is an airtight chamber. On the space station, it's called the airlock, where they come in from one atmosphere and the pressure is changed and transformed, transmuted into the pressure they're going into, so that they safely can transfer from one state to another. But that airlock in between is where the change happens from one to the other. That's what we are. Another analogy would be on a submarine. When SEAL team divers need to leave the interior of the submarine and swim out into the ocean waters, they go through a similar thing. It's an airtight chamber. I think on a submarine they call it a trunk lock. But again, it's an airtight chamber that they can come in from the sea safely and be in that chamber, and then changes are made within that chamber that then have them be in the atmosphere of the pressure of the interior of the submarine. So again, there's that chamber where here's where we've been, here's where we're changing, and now we're going into the new. And I guess at the risk of repeating myself, that's what we are energetically and consciously, and that's what we came here to do. We came here to be that. And as a matter of fact, I'm seeing it now, being reminded right now, some of us, I'm not saying all of us necessarily, but some of us, I will actually use the word plants. We have actually very deliberately agreed to be planted here, to be the transition team, to help human consciousness go from one to the other, to anchor where we've been, but become that chamber airlock to where we make the transformation into the new, where we're going. And it kind of creates a lit pathway for others to follow. I guess I'm mixing analogies and metaphors here, but on the ground, just in physical life, evidently on safari, especially in the olden days in the 20s and 30s in Africa, when Europeans were on safari, and of course they'd have a whole crew of locals carrying all of their stuff and their food and their tents and their guns and cameras and whatever, they'd be out on safari. And while the Europeans were still doing whatever they were doing, taking their pictures, hunting, whatever they're doing, a large portion of their crew would go way ahead, find a suitable place to camp, set up all the tents and the torches and get the food started, get all that ready, and have the torches lit so that the European crew, with their helpers, bearers, I guess they were called, could see the light and know where to go, where their camp was going to be. So the camp was already established for them with a trail for them to follow there. So again, that's just different analogies I wanted to give you, that we are here by choice. We came here because we really wanted to do this, to experience it, to be it, to anchor it and help the ascension happen. And some of us are even very deliberate plants to help it all happen. And so the last thing I'll add is I clicked on a YouTube in which a channel by the name of Blossom Goodchild, and she channels the Federation of Light, I believe. But her guides had said that we're going to get an envelope of instructions of what we're here to do, and that the envelopes haven't been delivered yet. And Blossom said, well, there are a lot of light workers here that feel pretty darn sure they know what they're here to do. And her guides said, even the people who think they know what their job is now, what they're here to do now, don't have any idea yet what their job is really going to be, what they're really here to be and do once this change is fully underway and takes place. So again, we're back to that idea of change. Our idea of ourself changes, our understanding of who and what we are changes, and therefore our understanding of our reality and the role we play in it changes. So I hope something I said today helped you out in understanding what you're going through. Please feel free to click like, subscribe, leave comments, ask questions. I'd love to hear from you. Have a most blessed day.